Hello War of the Visions players, I'm Jockey Fox. Today we're going to be looking at the Final Fantasy IX units, which we're going to be getting shortly. I believe they've been announced for the global site already, so we should see these guys fairly soon. Good morning. Good morning. Let's start with Garnet. Garnet is going to be the free unit. She's a 90 cost. I haven't heard a ton about her, but she seems like a really fascinating and interesting unit. At least on paper, there's maybe not a lot of extra stuff that she really does, but Master ability is going to give her extra magic and magical damage reduction. So that's pretty cool. That's just a straight up magic damage reduction. Not really a way around that, way to spell that or any of that. And magic attack resistance penetration as well. Looking into our passives, this is a real banger of a passive here. It does get 2 upgrades. So it's really burning a lot of her upgrades, unfortunately, but I like that they put them all into one passive. That's going to give her a lot of power in one slot. So what we're looking at here, it's going to be 14 spirit to add to that magic resistance, spirit penetration of 40, AoE resistance of 15, always helpful, and elemental chain resistance of 40. So that's going to make her a pretty tough cookie. Probably similar to how Renoa can be. And then let's see, we could get more magic, AP consumption down, HP lightning resistance, spirit lightning resistance. So lots of ways to give her more lightning resistance, maybe some more magic as well. Options. I like her healing counter more than I like Helena's. Because it's a chance to counter all damage. It's not purely physical, so that's going to be, I think, helpful for that. It's a good one there. I like it. 100% chance to counter missile damage, reduce damage taken. If you are specifically going against missile teams, this looks like a good one. Very helpful for, it's already been good on units like Sweetheart Miranda, such as that. And then chance to reduce all damage with this sealed ephemeral form. So this is another way to go if you want to get a further damage reduction instead of healing. But I think the healing is probably the best of, especially if there's healing power up, or you're using healing power up in your build. Basic attack is going to have a small chance of inflicting paralyze, which turns out has a very high chance of paralysis. So that's pretty bad for anybody who gets hit with that. Non-reflectable, I don't think I actually see a lot of reflectable stuff in her kit. That's going to be a credit to her, especially with Black Witch Helena floating out, or Helena the Black Rose floating around out there. Decrease hate by 8, granting protect and shell for herself. Not bad. Really good for a support. She's not, from my understanding, as much of a support. She has a lot of damage skills. So, something I would be happier to see on Velis, and Velis has something relatively similar, is why I mention it, than her. But another thing that's going to make her pretty difficult to take down, she can dispel courage. So that's cool. 185 mod, decent range. We've also got okay, next up, ally buff, dispels protect and shell for 3 turns upon hit for all allies. And then for self, we're gonna see magic 40% and spirit 20. So another way of making her more resistant to mages, kind of a running theme throughout this that I'm detecting. But we're also seeing a bit of magic up, which is going to be good for her damage, as she does have a number of damage skills. At least more than Renoa, at the very least. So the one that gets upgraded is going to non-elemental 220 mod. I believe this is the Chaos Bahamut Eva. Hey. Chill out. 220 mod, non-elemental, big AoE on this. Two hit skill, I believe. And it's going to decrease spirit penetration for 3 turns for targets, as well as casting another skill automatically. We'll look at that in just a second. But decreasing spirit penetration is going to be another way of making her spirit a lot more impactful. Spirit has had some issues because of spirit penetration, similar to defense. Defense and spirit both have issues. And there are ways to decrease defense penetration out there. They're not necessarily the most popular things in the world, but they work. They are effective. And it's interesting to finally be seeing one for spirit. I don't think there is one for spirit yet. So that's cool. Let's look at what this automatically casts. And that is going to be a ranged healing skill. This is going to be basically a cura, I guess, like an instant cura. So another sequence attack. This is going to be kind of like a Black Witch Helena or Ferris Light, in that this is kind of another sequence skill that is going to be a big damage skill with an AoE heal. Now this is going to be an aimable heal. It's not going to be as large a range heal as Helena's. And it's going to be about the same power. So the difference here is that this one is going to be castable multiple times, where Helena's is an LB. So it's going to be a little bit more similar to Ferris. So if you are excited for the White Rose, this is kind of a way of getting some of that power for free if you would like to, if you are looking to play her for Dark. Again, I think I already have Renoa, so I'm not as excited for Garnet, even though I think her kit's pretty cool. But I don't necessarily do the same things. I may still build her a bit anyways. Final buff is going to be increase AoE resistance 25 for ally, shell for ally, and then auto revive for self. So she's gonna have re-raise, important. And in addition to being able to give herself shell, she can also give others shell. So just really good, not only at making herself magic resistant, but making her party magic resistant as well. AoE resistance is always helpful. Looking at her main sub, we have a healing skill, Kurata basically, and then we have another non-elemental. Does she actually get elemental skills? She does. Her first skills are elemental. She does get she has a lot of non-elemental skills, so she is going to be good at, or better than most earth units at fighting wind. She's going to have a more decent matchup with wind, even though it's not going to be good, especially wind magic, which isn't necessarily the biggest thing right now. But non-elemental skill, 185 mod, cross-shaped AoE, 25% chance to inflict poison for 3 turns. Nothing really to write home about. This is another one of those skippable, passable main subs, so there we are. Sword Sorcerer, shell, and magic resistance for self. So personally, if you're going into a straight magic composition, if you're really trying to go versus magic, this actually might be preferable to her other buff that gives her shell. You don't get the protect, you don't get the decreased chance of being targeted, and the decreased chance of being targeted probably being more important there. But if you're going purely magical, then you probably want shell and magic resistance at the same time, especially given that she can give herself spirit and other things. Skill that increases her magic damage, chance to inflict disable, although low on a wonky AoE. 200 mod, these are all slash, And then she can increase her slash resistance penetration by 40. Not necessarily relevant, super relevant for her, because outside of the sub job she doesn't have slash moves, so it would only really affect these moves, but is another way to give her penetration. Also could give her some slash shading if you're all on Earth slash team. And then with Kodadama Wielder, we've got increased move and jump. Okay, probably not what you're working in there. 185 mods, low range stun, so that's going to be Earth-Rending Pain. Unevadable Pain as well, so a little bit of way to deal with evasion, but generally not a good one. This sub-job is almost entirely, or is entirely, for its magic damage component reflectable, so this is going to be a far worse. This is going to create issues going into, like, White Rose Helena after her LB. But hopefully with White Rose Helena, she's using other skills. She's not using the sub job for damage anyways. So it shouldn't be too much of an issue. Chance to inflict confusion, that's a terrible move. And then she can move herself to target panel with the 205 mod. That's okay, but she's not really one of the units that you necessarily want to be like brawling up close and personal. And then this sub job also gives something that I would say is potentially preferable if you're going into a straight up versus magic situation. We've got magic damage reduction of 50% for 3 times and AoE resistance of 20. That's going to be pretty well focused to magic. The AoE resistance it's not necessarily as focused as the other one was towards magic, given shell and magic resistance, but I think the magic damage reduction of 50% for 3 times and the AoE resistance, generally very helpful, is a good combination. Finally, for the limit break, we're going to dispel all debuffs for allies. 310 mod in a diamond AoE for 69 AP. That is going to heal so much. And then it's going to increase all attacks resistance by 10% for 3 turns for allies. There are other skills that kind of have abilities like this on them. I think of Mashrabi and Celeste off the top of my head for the all attacks resistance. I think that's closer to 15% for both of those LBs, but that's only for themselves. The fact that this does this for everyone, I think, is pretty powerful. Other than like the debuff dispel, though, this is probably an inferior version of Sylvie's LB, essentially, because I'd probably rather have the barrier than I would the all attacks resistance, and Sylvie probably just has better healing potential, although this has a higher healing mod, so maybe this does heal better, but Sylvie was always notable for being able to overheal people. I guess nowadays, with the way that HP limits have gone, she can heal somebody from 0 to full. That it is actually practical that she healed that hard. Like I said, she was kind of future-proof as a healer, so I think this will keep up with that, at least, if not, maybe surpass it a little bit. But that is going to be Garnet. She is the free unit that's coming, so let's talk about the units that you're going to pull for, that you're going to gacha, and whether or not you should do so. So Zidane's big gimmick is going to be his ability to protect courage teams. This TMR is interesting if you're really going into versus physical evasion. Most evasion is physical, there's not as much magical evasion, so this would work pretty well against evasion teams if your unit doesn't have an accuracy buff already. Single target resistance on master ability, reaction block rate of 40 between that and the dream ability, acquired AP up. Looks like he's going to be a pretty good little brawler. Reducing all of that reaction by 40% right off the bat is pretty cool. We have some interesting skills here for passives. Not necessarily one that is all powerful, but a lot of good options here. So first off, we've got attack 24% slash attack resistance penetration 40. Below that, there's also an attack 24% defense penetration of 40. So you combine the two of those, you get 48% attack as well as slash and defense penetration. But unfortunately, that's all the passives you would get, which is why I like really stacking a lot of things on one passive for a DPS, so that you don't have to get two passives like this to pull that off. But honestly, it's a lot of the DPS package between the two of those. Those are good together. You also might consider an additional 1 move and decreased chance of being targeted, or additional agility and strike resistance, depending on what you're doing, what you're going for. And then for counters, we have a chance to counter slash and strike damage, which is all incredibly popular. 70% chance there, reduces damage taken by 30. I think that's going to be a really good anti-physical deal. Chance to counter damage with piercing. This can strike through people. It's got kind of a low range, so it's fairly unlikely that you'll hit your ally while you're piercing with this. And then finally, chance to counter all damage with I think like a preemptive. Nope. Is it preemptive? It is preemptive. Right, yes. This is probably a much better preemptive counter than this one. It's got better range, equal chances of triggering, equal kind of damage. You do have the potential for slash attack resistance penetration that can add to the effectiveness of this, and I don't think that you hit people with it. I don't know. Maybe? I haven't seen that. It does say it's straight line, but looking at the main job for Zidane here, we have a steal, which is also going to increase his agility for 3 turns, which I guess he's stealing some of their agility for himself. For our buddy buff, we're going to be increasing critical damage for allies, increasing single target resistance for allies. Good combination there, both offensive and defensive. I like it. It's going to increase wind attack for self, and it's going to further push that slash attack resistance penetration for 3 turns for self. Alright, so we've got skill is getting upgraded quite a bit. Break physical barrier for targets in kind of like a calculated rend pattern, big, large cross-shaped pattern. When casting another skill, automatically launch the following skill on target for 3 turns. And then there's going to be a 165 modifier. Decrease healing power by 40 for targets. That's, I think, pretty impactful. Like, I still like decreased healing power. There's a lot of ways that people can heal up. Threshold heals aren't necessarily as popular as they once were, but they still exist, and they are still out there. And then disable CT up for 3 turns for targets is also pretty cool. CT up sealing is a great way of shutting down a number of units that have a lot of CT shenanigans, and hopefully this will be enough, because I think that this is a lot of cool stuff on one skill. Let's see what it's also automatically casting as well. Yeah, huge range, non-elemental damage, follow-up skill, shouldn't break chains, non-typed damage as well, so it's not gonna, a lot of, might even be typeless, so there might not be a lot of ways of increasing this other than, human killer, kind of a la Bartz's follow-up but skill, just saying. Next attack is a 200 mod, short range, decreased critical evasion, 25, and decreased critical damage resistance by 20. I'm not even sure what that means exactly. Do you do 20% more critical damage? Sure. Ignore fatal damage for self. Reduce magical damage taken 25%. Following effects upon hit, ignore if someone tried to dispel, ignore fatal damage. That's a fun way of putting that. For 3 turns. So this is his courage protection buff. It's also going to give him magic resistance and courage himself. So courage and the ability to protect it all in one. Very nice. The magic damage reduction is probably going to be important because I think that the reraise focus team that we're looking at with like White Rose, Helena, and Vivi is because Helena is going to have a skill that allows her to seal courage on her hits, and this is going to be a very important thing for you to stop. But in addition to that, you're also going to want to reduce magical damage for that matchup. So I think that Zidane actually makes really good into the Helena Vivi matchup for this skill, for this buff. So let's look at what else. Also it's going to restore 15 AP. Oh my god. Serenity, why can't you walk upstairs, girl? What is... Oh my gosh. It's cat, y'all. Decrease single target resistance, 20 for 3 turns. Kinda short range. 165 mod, it's okay. Decreasing single target resistance is usually pretty helpful though. It's really going to enable other members of your team to do more damage, but it's alright. Cross-shape AoE, 165 mod, 25% chance to inflict confusion. That's kind of the bullshit I'm used to for main sub skills. Gotta just squeeze a mediocre skill with a ability to call status in there. Let's do that. Restore 50% HP for allies, not self. Restore 30 AP for allies, not self. Chance to apply instant death by 200 for self. Do you have an instant death skill? Is there a skill that makes this relevant? I don't see an instant death skill. I'm not sure how the fucking targeting on this works either. It looks like it targets yourself. It says allies, not self. It's 10 TP for 50% HP. I think the skill's trolling me. It only happens once? What does this even mean? But like, I guess getting all of this for 10 TP seems ridiculously amazing. I guess that's not giving you much AP. There's kind of a downside to that, but holy crap. But how does the targeting work? If anybody knows how this fucking Zidane skill works, please let me know. I'm not sure if it makes this main sub worth it, but what the fuck is that? And then for our first sub job, this is going to be one of the new Lance style sub jobs. I think this might even be Gernsback's job. 40% attack for self, 20 defense for self, and protect for 3 turns. That's a pretty good buff for yourself if you're looking at, because there's a lot of ways that he matches up well into magic. If you wanted to balance that out by giving him the ability to match up into physical, which I think is more in the meta at the moment, then this is going to be an important skill for him. We also have a draining dive. That's cool. 141 mod, absorbs HP. Pretty cool. Close range, very low AP, but cool skill. Also, there's a jump delay there, it seems. And then 165 mod, 25% chance to inflict stun, but is in a 3x2 area in front. Very low range, but also kind of like a Royal Rend, if not a bit smaller. And then we have increased movement, 1 for 3 turns, and agility 25%. So vitalize effect 3 turns for self. I think that's pretty cool. That's Kane's TMR essentially, right? Kane's TMR does that, except with haste instead of that. So that's fucking Kane's TMR. That's really cool. That was a top-rated TMR for a long time. I think it probably still is. So this is probably a pretty good buff for him, and I think it really speaks to some of the things that he can do. He is kind of that ninja-y type of character, so I think that this would be a good one for him. And then decrease pierce resistance for 30 and 185 damage mod. Good range on this. I think this is probably going to be one of the more important ones for him, especially if you're running him on a team with like Glaciella and Veritas of the Heavens, whom I'm going to be talking about in my next video. But I think that this, I'm really glad that he got a new spear sub job, because this is going to be so important for him comboing with those characters. This allows him to chain with them, and decreasing pierce resistance, I'm not sure that that's a thing that either of them do. So the ability to do that with him is going to be really helpful. He's going to be opening up and breaking for those other two characters who are also quite good at breaking themselves. So it's going to be a powerful combination. And then finally we have operative. So we have an evasion, decreased chance of being targeted buff that I don't think is going to be particularly great for him or for his allies. There are some wind evasion units that might really like having this in there, but 2B is one of them, and she's still only a 120. She's from a really old collaboration at this point. Until she gets updated, I don't think that she's going to be a super great teammate for anybody. Vanilla, weirdly targeted 170 mod, not really happy about that. And then here's the draining whirl. That's going to be a 126 mod, not very powerful at all, but it's going to absorb 30% of the damage done. If you can get multiple people in that, that's going to be pretty powerful. Decreasing agility and accuracy at a very long range. A lot of times, unfortunately, as much as I would like the skill to be good, because of its incredible range, it'll stop you from using your other buffs. So usually you want to turn this one off, unfortunately. And then the final skill, just wow, that's a wall of text. Reduces counter chance by 100% for 3 turns. Decrease effect by 20% for every time you have received damage, maximum 40%. So that can go down to 60. Decrease slash resistance 25% for 3 turns for target. Decrease chance by 20% for each time you receive damage. So I guess that brings it down to 15. I guess it's 25% of hull, not 25%, because how could you reduce 25 by 40%? Which is not possible. So it's got to be like 40% of 25, I guess. Thanks for making the math ambiguous. 205 mod is going to do a lot of damage. Also, this is... oh no, it's going to be single target around him. And then a 65% chance to inflict poison, which decreases chance for every time you've taken damage up to 40, which... that might bring it down to 25%. I don't know, because that doesn't follow the same methodology I used for the other one, but I don't want to use the same methodology as I used for the other one. So like 39% at the worst, 52%. So it goes from 65 to 52 to 30, whatever I just said, percent, I guess. And then finally we have the LB. Oh my gosh, finally. 200% physical damage. So 20% physical damage increase for 3 turns. That's going to come in before damage. Is a 200% mod single target attack. So he can break for this in a number of ways. And then it's going to decrease his AP consumption by 30 for 3 turns, which is going to be helpful. It's only a 43 AP skill. So he should have plenty of AP left after casting this to do all sorts of other things. Seems like a really strong unit. Again, I really like that he has the piercing. In the short term, this is going to make him an incredibly useful character. And also, like, it's great that one of the units that he's comboing with here is free. So for people who really, like, their only claim to fame within Wind, hopefully you've got some VCs. But your only claim to fame within Wind is Glaciella, the flag bearer. Then as long as you think you can do legendary reliquaries well enough to get Veritas of the Heavens, then this boy is going to be a great third for that party. And I think that's worth talking about. I think that's worth mentioning. But the big banger, the big boy, the smallest of big boys, these have both actually been very small boys stature-wise. This is a very short collaboration. Not that it's not running for very long, but all of the characters in the collaboration are very short. Like what? Zidane's like 12. Vivi is incarnated into the body of a child, even compared to the Black Waltzes. I don't know. Magic attack, resistance, penetration 20. Decrease activation time by 200. That looks like the relevant stuff that, wow, that we're getting. Wow. Okay, so with our upgraded main passive here, we're getting another 400 decrease activation time. So that's going to be 600 total with this passive. 20% restore auto revive, so automatic auto revive. He comes in with re-raise. 12 single target resistance, and when the conditions are met, auto cast. Restore 40% HP when HP is 50% or under. So he has a threshold heal. He has re-raise and a threshold heal automatically. Like, this is like an auto snow. That is very powerful on a passive. I like it a whole lot. Very strong. What else we got? We got spirit and HP and magic, AP and magic damage 10%. Agility, spirit penetration, and crit rate, I think, though, is probably the way to go. That would be the second one I'm picking, but also spirit and magic resistance. Counters, we have slash and magic damage counter of 70%. That is huge. Those are the two biggest damage types in the game. That is going to counter most things. 70% chance to counter with damage. Preemptive magic damage. Very powerful on him. For the sword sorcerer, is this a sword sorcerer? Is this, I don't remember. It's one of those. But I don't remember ever seeing this counter. Chance to counter all damage 30%. Same modifier, although it's slash type. I think it's magic slash though. Very, very, very low range. However, the damage increases as HP decreases, and that base 121 mod is based on 100% HP. So the lower your HP goes, the higher that modifier gets. How high? Who knows? Again, not a counter I'm familiar with at all. Then we have a chance to counter magical damage 20% with full evasion. If you're going up against exclusively mages with this, maybe this is worth considering, but I actually think that this top skill is just really, really good and what you want to be doing. Okay, so main skill, just his basic skill, reduces counter chance by 100% for 3 turns. That's a really good basic attack to have. It is reflectable. Looks like his kit is going to be reflectable. So big issue for him going into Black Witch Helena. They do make incredible partners. You don't have to think of them as being antagonistic, but this is going to give her a little bit of an advantage over him. Decrease magic skill activation time by 200 for 4 turns. That's going to bring it up to 800 total with passive, with mastery ability, all of that. Increase magic 40% for 3 turns. Increase reaction block rate 50 for 3 turns, which is honestly a bit redundant with the decreased counter chance 100% on the basic attack. But if you're not using the basic attack, you got to get that reaction block rate in there somehow. I would say you could almost even turn off that basic attack since its other effect doesn't do a lot, considering that you're probably already stacking this one. But if you're not using this one, it's also a good reason to come back in, and it still does things other than that. So there are still reasons to use it. It does get you that other 50, and it does also apply this directly to the unit. Instead of you having reaction block rate, which is good for your character, this is going to be good for the entire team. So there's still reasons to run it, but it is a little bit redundant. AoE skill, cross shape AoE skill, 4 uses of this, 2 hits as well. Dispel shell for targets, 185 mod, going to do a good little bit of damage, and is a 100% hit chance. So Vivi has guaranteed hit in his kit, and can also get rid of shell with it, so quite cool. He can give himself and allies protect in a cross shape AoE. He can seal reraise for allies. Seal reraise removal, at least, for allies. And then magic attack resistance penetration, 40% for self. This was really missing in his passive, so I'm glad he gets it here on the skill that he is most likely to use. And this is, I think, in that he's kind of physically resistant here, and that he's getting and giving protect. Another reason why White Rose Helena is going to be a little bit of a chink in this guy's armor. Next attack, decrease elemental chain resistance by 40. We don't have anybody else who can do that, is my understanding. I don't remember seeing it before. Big diamond AoE, 3 casts on this bad boy, 220 mod. This is going to be a devastator. And it gets upgraded to also restore 200 CT for self. Now, we did see, and I think that, you know, Zidane versus Vivi is going to be a big theme after Final Fantasy IX. Both of these characters are going to be powerful and important. I think this is another way in which that matchup becomes interesting, because if you remember, Zidane has the ability, I think it was Zidane, pretty sure it wasn't Garnet. I think Zidane was the one who had the ability to seal the ability to gain or restore CT. So Zidane would have the ability to turn the last part, the whole upgrade of this skill off, essentially. Except that it gets a 4th cast upon its upgrade, and good lord, Vivi's just going to beat the crap out of people with this, and then take another turn. And then we have a Dispel Auto Revive skill here. So Vivi himself will be able to threaten Reraise. So Vivi will be able to threaten Helena if she doesn't have her Reraise healing up, or she doesn't hit him with that before this skill goes off. The skill has good range, so there is a chance that might happen, and this might work out well for Vivi. And if it does, it is a non-elemental 260 mod. That is just redonkulous, and it's going to be one of those situations where, you know, I also like this because if you're building a dark resistance part, if you're building your dark resistance up really high, non-elemental damage doesn't give a fuck. This is going to be really good against light or even other people who've built high dark resistance. Looking at that main sub, not really expecting much. 185 mod, single target skill, 4 casts, pretty close range. 25% chance to inflict poison. If they have poison, it's also going to increase their spirit by 30. So that could be impactful, but it's better than like the generic. It's better than the status skill we saw in Zidane's, because it has an additional effect that's actually pretty beneficial for our boy Vivi here. And then 15% chance to inflict Petrify for 1 turn as well. Very powerful status effect. I think this was how someone managed to cheese the snake tank boss. There's footage of that I saw from reraise, who showed a cheese method to lock the boss in place by using Vivi to petrify himself. I believe that was with this skill, but other than that, not a lot to say about this sub job. Not great. Blade Soul. Blade Soul is going to give Sword Song formation, which isn't great for Vivi necessarily, in that this is his slash-based main job, so it's really only going to be benefiting this stuff. Critical rate for yourself as well. That's, I guess, helpful for everybody. And it could be helpful if he's on a more slash-based team. Those are common for Dark. Dark slash is a hell of a thing. So, potentially, but I don't think that this buff is super important for him. 121 mod decreases attack and magic, 39% for target. It's alright, but it's not great. Probably not something you want to keep on for him. Cross shape AoE 121 mod, dispel all buffs when performing a critical hit, dispel haste. Physical and magical damage, increased buffs. All of this is going to be on a critical hit, I think, except for the haste. That's the only one that doesn't say it's for a critical hit. But everything else is going to be critical hit dependent. That's Slate Wiper. Not bad. If you need to dispel, it's maybe not the one that you want, but maybe after the critical rate up, it'll help. It seems like a lot of eggs into this basket, though, especially when its main job is doing what it do so well. 165 mod, decrease bravery 40 when performing a critical hit. Not super important. And then, luckily we did get the reduced magic damage by 7,500 HP and slash attack resistance penetration 40 buff. I'm really happy about the magic HP barrier there. That's really cool and would be helpful in a matchup against someone like Black Witch Helena. This is something that you definitely want to consider for something like that. But the slash attack resistance penetration, much like the slash attack up, is only going to be helpful for this job. It's not targeting allies, so there's not like a, well, you're on a slash team excuse to this. It's really just being unhelpful. That being said, I think the magic damage barrier is powerful enough that you might consider this one, but maybe not. And then for Red Mage, we have Cura, Darkra, Asuna, Sleep, and Guard Haste. Fast Cast? Fast Cast. Fast Cast is probably the thing that I like the most in here. That's going to give you, so you're at what, 600? So it's going to be 950. Wow. 950 attack time reduction for yourself and allies. Or no, it's just for ally. Sorry. Would be cool if this was a choose to target. It's also going to give them haste, 42% increased speed, quite strong, and then single target resistance of 20 while they have haste. So that's pretty powerful. It's been a buff that's been popular for a while. It's gotten upgraded and gotten better. I would say that guard haste is fast cast protection. I don't know what the skill's called anymore, but it's pretty strong. And it's very easily the best part of Red Mage, but Red Mage just has incredibly little to write home about. Maybe Blade Soul's the preference here. I think gives you things to do with slash chaining, I guess. And then for the limit burst, we have a very, very large AoE, diamond shaped pattern, increasing magic damage by 20% for 3 turns, before dealing damage again. 200% mod, so that's going to do a lot of damage. And then it's going to have a 67% chance to inflict stun. So Vivi going to be stun locking people, because that is a very high chance, especially for a high faith mage type unit. That's going to be very likely, especially with a wide range of effect. If you get multiple characters stuck in there, there's going to be one of them that doesn't have stun resistance. There's going to be one of them that's unlucky. Somebody's getting stunned by this. And that is going to be just potentially make or break. Like, missing turns is just not good. At least you're not getting stopped, but stun is still pretty impactful. And I think I've seen stun turn some games around numerous times. So while it seems to be an effect that people look past a little bit or aren't entirely afraid of, it can be really powerful, and it's one that the devs like to give a slightly higher chance of proccing. We saw this on Tifa, we saw this on a number of characters that have a larger chance to stun on certain skills. And you know, it's a pretty good status effect, I would say. It's one that you want to be a little bit afraid of, and a reason to be afraid of Vivi. But I think Vivi's just got a lot going on, and I think it's awesome. And going back into this main job, we can get rid of auto revive. I think do not have courage removal in here. That is unfortunate for him. So again, like I was saying, there's going to be an interesting matchup between Zidane and Vivi, as we can see. And interestingly enough, I think that gives White Rose Helena a definite place within that matchup, because she is the one who brings the courage removal. And that's going to be important. I think you still want to bring courage removal to a Zidane fight, even if he's going to have the chance to seal it, because that's not always going to work out. At least that's how I imagine it. I really want to start seeing some of these units in fights so I can see how practical these effects are, but I would imagine that doesn't always work out exactly the way you would want. You can still get your re-raise removed, you can still get your courage removed, that kind of thing. But this is a completely new dynamic that's being brought to the game. I mean, not completely new. We have White Rose Helena already, but it's a very new dynamic to be brought to the game, even though we have White Rose Helena already. There just aren't many characters that can do some of the things that these characters are doing, so I think that makes the Gacha units here especially important, impactful, or particularly kind of the linchpins of new meta. They could be really important characters. I don't think you should go for both of them, and I think my honest opinion here is that if you are building White Rose Helena right now and you don't have a shit ton of resources set aside, you should probably skip Vivi. Maybe go for Vivi's VC. I think Vivi's VC would be quite powerful. In fact, I should do a VC video talking about the VCs that are going to come out with this as well. I think I've already actually talked about the first Holo VC for JP, which was the first one that came out with this collaboration. So I don't know, it should be a quicker video. Thank you for tuning into this one, though. I know it's been a little bit longer, but I'm covering 3 different characters, looking at their entire kits, kind of throwing some judgments and some verdicts in there, some advice on how to train their AI, all that sort of stuff. It's going to be a longer video. Thank you for tuning in. Be sure to like and subscribe. Also, be sure to leave a comment. Any of those engagement things that are going to help in the algorithm, help the YouTubes appreciate me as a content creator. Thank you so much for tuning in. And while you're scrolling down there to like and subscribe, check out that link in the description. It's going to lead you to books, podcasts, video channels, all sorts of things that I have put together, all sorts of things that I do. If you want to support me more fully as a person and as a creator, check out my books, check out my podcast, check out my other video channels, and I will check you out in the next video.